So today's tutorial is going to be based on the do's and the don'ts of makeup. Doing the right makeup application, using the right shades, the right undertones, and then the don'ts, which is going to be based on the wrong shades of makeup, choosing the wrong undertones and the wrong tones. In my previous tutorial on undertones, I made mention that there are three types of undertones: the warm undertone, the neutral undertone, and the cool undertones. When you are choosing foundation for undertone, warm undertone foundations normally has a yellow pigment in the foundation, whilst cool undertone foundations has red pigment in the foundation. In today's tutorials, I'm going to use the Sasha foundation palette for both do's and the don'ts of my makeup. On the don't side of my face, I will be using the Sasha foundation in the shade Perfect Spice. I swatch it across my face. Even though I am warm undertone and my foundation has to contain a yellow pigment, this foundation tone is much lighter than my skin tone. I blend it in. You see, because I didn't prime this aspect of my face, and the brush I'm using is not the right brush. This brush actually is a powder brush. This brush is not the right brush for this application. And I'm doing it the way I see some people apply their foundation. Not with the right brush, but with the powder brush. As you can see, using this brush is wrong for the application. 1. The undertone of this foundation is my undertone because it has a yellow pigment. But then, it is lighter than my skin shade. It means that the tone is wrong, but the undertone is right. And the brush is also wrong because this brush is a Zorea powder brush. The reason why you wouldn't have a flawless makeup with this particular don't is because 1, we didn't prime our face to keep the foundation intact. 2, you can see streaks in the foundation blending. The blending is uneven. The blending of this particular foundation, which is wrong, a wrong tone foundation for my skin, is uneven, and the applicator that we blended it with is a powder brush, not a foundation brush or a blending brush. Now let's use the right foundation for the do's on the other side of my face. So on the don't side of my face, I start with a primer. I use the Maybelline primer, and with my hand I blend it in. You remember in the previous video, which is the bridal glow makeup, I made mention that the hand is the best blender and the best applicator, which blends very well into the skin. That is why naturally when we are pomading ourselves, we use our hand to blend the pomade very well into the skin. I will be doing color matching today because this Sasha palette does not contain a shade that is my shade. So I'll be mixing 3 colors to get my shade. Using the same applicator, I'm going to blend in Perfect Bronze, the Perfect Copper, and Mocha. I swatch all the 3 on my face. With a damp beauty sponge, I apply the foundation, then all over my eyelid. Now the difference between the two is that 1, the undertone of this foundation is fair, is yellow, which is right, but the tone is too light for me. The undertone of this foundation combined matches my face, my neck, and my chest. meaning that that is the right shade, the right tone, and the right undertone. On the done side of my face, I'm going to use the Milani Conceal Plus Perfect Concealer, and I'm going to use a very light shade, and I'll be showing you how most people apply their concealer when they are highlighting their face. So taking this amount of a concealer, I use it under my eye. Let's be frank, most people go very heavy even when the shade of the concealer is wrong when they are dealing with highlighting. Let's blend this concealer and see how our highlighted area will turn out. I will blend in the concealer with this brush, with this powder brush. People take time to blend the concealer all the way down here. Blend it under the lower eyelid and bring it all the way down here. Now, the reason why you wouldn't want to blend a concealer under your lower lash line is because your lower lash line has got fine lines which are very beautiful. Anytime you blend a concealer on this small lower eyelid, it makes you look like a masquerade. It doesn't make you natural. Now on my left side, I'm going to show you how I'm going to blend a concealer and how you can mix a concealer to color correct that place and also to highlight that place two at a time. From my previous video, you will notice that I usually use two shades of a concealer for highlighting. They are both the same tone for dark skinned, but one has a red undertone and the other has a yellow undertone. Now you can mix red undertone and a yellow undertone to color correct. Because one is red and one is yellow, it cancels out and then gives a perfect highlighting to the dark skin. In smaller bits, I first use the concealer in Espresso, which has a red undertone, in smaller bits. And then I cancel it out with the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Fawn, which has a much lighter yellow undertone. Using the same beauty blender, I blend the highlighted areas. Now this is how you should blend. You blend from underneath your eye, exempting your lower eyelid, that is the small portion under your eye. You exempt that place and you blend from underneath your eye to your hairline. So now you can see the difference between this concealer for highlighting, which has the right tone but the wrong undertone. And you can see the cancellation I have done here using the red undertone concealer and the yellow undertone concealer, which is lighter than my skin color, to cancel it out to give it a natural finish. Now I use what is left on my blender and apply it on my eyelids. People love to bake. There were some videos I used to watch on YouTube where people would apply a lot of concealer. At the end of the day, apply a certain powder and bake. After baking, you would see streaks of powder all across the face, and you would see that the powder finish doesn't come out as natural. The translucent powder becomes cakey, and when there is a little heat, it begins to spread all across the face. Today, I'm going to show you why you shouldn't bake and why you should use less powder. On the done side of my face, I'll be using this, the Laura Mercier translucent powder, which is white. So sorry that the container got broken and I had to pour it into a DIY. People actually take this big brush, dip it into the translucent powder without considering the excess amount of the powder, use it on their face like this, that much, to bake. And when they have seen that it is too much on their face and they can't do anything about it, then they begin to do this. What are you trying to do? You are blowing your bacteria on the brush, and then they'll come back with the same brush and now they'll be sweeping it away. And this they call baking. This is wrong. I wouldn't advise a beginner or someone who hasn't been into makeup for long to use a white powder to be baking the face. Unless you have been doing makeup for a long time, I wouldn't advise you to be doing that. And even if you want to do that, you should use it in circular motions and in small quantities, very, very small. On the do side of my face and the clean part of my beauty blender, I'm going to dip this into the translucent setting powder, very little. So now you have to set your face. You don't have to blend too much, okay? Just set it with the translucent powder to prevent creasing. Before I move into the bronzer, the difference between a bronzer and a contour is that contour has a red pigmentation in it, but then bronzers are normally browns. They are normally earthy tones. I'll be bronzing today on the left side of my face, which is my dews, and I'll be contouring on the right side of my face, which is my don'ts, to explain the difference between them. On the wrong side of my face, I'll be using the Zaron Face Definer, and in it I'll be using the contour. This is a contour. Using the Zorea A70 brush, I dip the brush into the contour palette as I see most people do. And without taking time to see how much product they have on the brush, they only go ahead to contour their face. Now the reason why you wouldn't want to do this is that by the time you finish, you would see that you have used much product on your face. Secondly, the brush you are using is a contour brush though, but this brush is too big. This brush should be used on a person who has a larger face. If you have a cute face like myself and you use a big brush like this to contour, in the first place you would have the contour covering your entire cheek, which shouldn't be so. I'm going to teach you how to contour your face or bronze your face. This one is my Black Opal Stick Foundation. Because this foundation has an earthy tone, brown hues, as I said early on, I'll be using this to bronze with a medium blending brush, which is the Zorea Ultimate Blending 865 brush. I take a little and starting from my hairline, I bronze the face. Now most of the products, the makeup products, must be in the hairline. Now you can see that this one has brown hues and it complements my skin more than the contour, which has red hues. Contouring or bronzing is just to bring shadow and give you a sun-kissed effect, brings dimension to your skin. So you need to have most of the products in your hairline so that it will look natural coming down, so that it will give you a sun-kissed effect and it will give you a normal shadow, not a heightened shadow. I have these beautiful blushes here, and this is the e.l.f. blush. It has beautiful colors. You can see all this beauty in the palette. It has a very beautiful case and it's a very beautiful blush palette. I also have the Nika K Duo blush. It's 2-in-1, the same color, but one has got shimmer and the other is a powder. And you can see this blush here, which is an orange blush. I usually use in my previous videos. If you are a beginner who is now learning how to do makeup, you should learn how to choose the right tone. If you're a cool undertone, then these blushes are good for you because these blushes are cool undertone blushes. Even though the tone is a dark tone. The blushes are cool undertone blushes. But if you are a warm undertone like myself, you should use orange shade blushes. Okay, I'm going to use this beautiful blush color here to demonstrate on the don't aspect of my face and see how it will come out. Most people have no idea where the blush should be placed. When you feel your cheek, the bone underneath your cheek is where the blush should end. We know most people who would apply blush and be smiling like this without considering the amount of blush to take. They take this huge amount of blush and without any consideration they smile like this and apply the blush. Now at the end of the day, you don't want to do that. When you should feel underneath your bone, you would see that the bone of your cheek ends here. And immediately you smile like this and apply the blush. At the end of your makeup, you would see that the blush falls. Blush should be a little on the apples of your cheek and it should end under your bone. I know that I'm guilty of sometimes using blushes or makeup colors that are not my skin undertone, but it's because I've been using it for some time now. And normally when I even use it, I use it in very small quantities and I use it to complement the kind of dress that I wear. But if you're new and a beginner, it's just an advice I'm giving you. Use the color which is your undertone so that you don't go about working like a masquerade after applying your makeup until you master how to use colors which are not your undertone but that which can complement your entire makeup. Using the orange blush shade, the brush I applied with the blush early on was bigger for my face. Even though it was the blush brush, it was bigger for my face. So this time around I'm going to use a smaller brush for the blush and I take a little of it. Okay, I take a little of it, and even if it is a lot, I don't go about blowing bacterials on it. Even if it's more than I can contain, I can only do this so that at least the excess powder goes off. Okay, and I need a little. Now tracing the apples of my cheek, I take the blush a little higher and I dab it onto my cheek to give it a natural finish. You can see the difference between this blush and the one that I have here, which most people do. This blush falls lower than my cheekbone. This blush ends under the bone of my cheek. I'll be using this highlighter for the don't side of my face. Now what most people tend to do is to take much highlighter like this on their brush without considering that they have to at least dust off the excess powder, and they go this way and they rub it on their face. Now at the end of the day, the highlighter becomes too much. Yes, there are so many people who would like to go wild with highlighter, but my only advice I would give to such people is to do it especially when they are going for evening programs. Now on this side of my face, I'll be using the gold highlighter to define my face. I pick a little, not too much, okay? I pick a little highlighter and then I highlight my face. I take it a little above the high points of my cheeks. So you can see the difference between this highlighter, which has dropped, and the difference between this. And you can see the difference between the blush and the difference between this blush, which I have done here. On the down side of my face, I wouldn't do anything to my face. I wouldn't prep my eyebrow. I'll just go straight and then pick this product and then draw my eyebrow. As deep as this, I draw the brow down like this, like how I see some people do, and then draw it like this. And with the same product, they dip it like this, a lot like this, and start to draw and cover up the spaces in the brow. And when they are done, they clean the excess line that doesn't have anything to do with the makeup. In my previous video, I mentioned that your eyebrow color must be the same as your hair. This is a shade or two darker than my hair. I'm going to mix this black with the brown to see if I'll get something which is exact shade of my eyebrow hair, or something which is a little closer to my eyebrow hair. Before I do my eyebrow, I have to prep my eye. I'm going in with the eyebrow gel, my usual eyebrow gel from e.l.f., to arrange the brow. I'll leave it to dry to be a little tacky so that I can go ahead and then fill in the brow. I've managed to mix the brown shade and the dark shade together, so I'm going to draw the brow. I take it to the color. Now this is how you have to draw your brow. I've got hooded eyes, and for people with hooded eyes mostly, you don't draw your brow too long dropping like that. It has to be a little shorter and natural. Filling it in, you have to draw tiny strokes and fill in the blank spaces. If you are not conversant with the brow gel, I suggest you go in for a pencil so that you can get the pointed part of the pencil to draw your tiny hair strokes. At the innermost part of my brow, which is hairless, I draw tiny hair strokes. Take my time with this and I draw tiny hair strokes, following the exact hair stroke. So you can see the difference between this one and then this one. This one is too dark, too drawn, but this one at least looks a little natural. With the concealer, color correcting underneath my eye, I still go in with my favorite two shades. Okay, the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Fawn and Express. So I mix them together. I mix these together to color correct, okay, and clean underneath my brow. I do same here. You know, let me forget about doing this and then show you how some people clean up underneath their brow when doing makeup. Some people will go in with a lighter shade that I used for highlighting, dip it into the concealer, use as much as this to clean underneath their eye. I'm trying so hard to demonstrate how people do it, okay? To clean underneath their eye like this. And then use that same one and come down like this. When they are done, they'll go in with a beauty blender, try so hard to clean the mess that they have created on their face. Even if you want to apply a concealer on top of the brow to make it stand out, you can choose to go in for a concealer that is your shade or your foundation. You don't have to use 2 shades lighter color concealer underneath your brow to clean up underneath your brow And then also use that same two shades to clean on top of your brow or to make your brow stand out. I'm going to use the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Espresso, and let's demonstrate how we can use it to clean. This quantity of a foundation or a concealer is far better than applying the two shades lighter than your skin color, which you use underneath your brow, on top of your brow as well. Now the last thing I'm going to do is the lipstick. I'm going to feature red lipstick. Lately, I love using red lipsticks for my lips, but then people with warm undertone should only use red lipsticks that has a little brown in them because of our undertones, which complement earthy colors. Now don't use light red lipsticks since it wouldn't complement your makeup. Let's demonstrate how both will look on our lips. On the done side of my face, I use this lipstick. And on the do side of my face, I'm using the NYX Professional Makeup Butter Gloss in the shade Red Velvet, which has brown in it. I'm going to use the Q-tip of the lipstick applicator to line up my lip. I do same down before I apply the lipstick. Let's be honest with ourselves. This one is more beautiful because it has earthy brown color pigmentation in the red lipstick. When I cover here, that lipstick complements my makeup very beautifully. But when you look at here, this place is lighter and the color is light red. It doesn't have any brown hues to it. I'm not saying that this is not beautiful, but this one is more beautiful than this one. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you loved and enjoyed it. Be encouraged and stay in beauty. Until my next video, bye bye everyone. Mwah. Now taking time to know the squares which the concealer must contain. The squares which the concealer must fill. The reason why you wouldn't want to blend a concealer under your lower lash line